Listen, before I get into it, if you're somebody who's like a PO1 Andy, you're in love with PO2, and at the same time you're mentally unstable, maybe this video is probably not for you. This is not a positive video about Path of Exile 2, but again, this is just my opinion. So, enjoy. First things first, I want to start off with this is a personal pet peeve. This is probably like the thing that started ruining the game for me, and this is going to be very controversial because I know a lot of people were really happy about this change. I hate the rolling changes that they made. Now, I do think they needed to change rolling. It was a bit too much that you would get body blocked so often, even though I can appreciate it in the sense that it's like I have to go slower, I don't want to be overwhelmed by monsters. However, there are some very unfair situations where monsters would just spawn all over you. There is absolutely nowhere to go unless you do insane amount of damage and completely kill everything. Then you will get body blocked and you will die. Not very fun. Specifically, like Galleria Room was like a bit of a cheese with the previous rolling mechanics. However, I think they went way too far with what rolling can do now. And basically, the game devolved into something like this, where you just can infinitely roll out of trouble, right? You just spam roll, get out, go through them. Like, I'm not even trying to run away. I'm literally just like rolling through them just to showcase how stupid it is. This is like a level 4 or 5 character. This is the second map of the game. I just want to showcase, but this is happening literally like on my monk in Krulek 3 right now. And it's just all you do really, you just run through the whole map, grab a bunch of mobs, roll through them because you can, and when you have enough or when like you finally see an elite, you just AoE everything down. This is not, again, if I want to play PoE 1, I would. Why is PoE 2 literally doing what PoE 1 does? And honestly, it's like, I think PoE 1 does it better, so it's like, why even do this? This makes absolutely no sense. I don't know. I'm not a fan of this. I think this is a bad change. I think the game became very far away from Souls-like, how people like to call it. And I never thought it was Souls-like, except for the bosses, but like, the first few runs of a brand new character when I just made one, I had, like, before the role changes, I had to, like, kill stuff. I had to take my time. Unless, like, obviously, if you start with, like, you have some OP legendary for early game, then okay, sure, whatever, you're stronger. But if you start a brand new character, you had to take it slow. You couldn't just, like, run through everything, AoE everything down. Like, if there's too many, you can just roll out of danger. No, I would get stuck. This group would have killed me like 5-10 times over before I could do anything about it, right? So I really don't like the role changes. I think there needs to be like some kind of like a punishment for perma rolling. Not punishment, but like a mechanic that prevents you from rolling so much. um I'm not sure if like a cooldown for rolling, like you have like 3 rolls and then like, and they have a cooldown that they recharge, or maybe a stamina system like they have in Dark Souls. I am not sure what would be the best thing, but rolling as it is right now is very cheap. It makes the game very not dangerous. You just roll out of every problem unless you get one shot, which again, one shot is not even a fun mechanic because it's like you just get one shot all the time. Then you're forced to always like to be like super aware of your rolls, right? Which is also like not a fun gameplay. Either way, right now the rolling makes the game kind of like a joke. But I honestly think the rolling is not even the biggest problem, because the end game is really where the joke is. And boy, what a joke this is. I'm sorry, but what is the difference between what you're seeing right now and Path of Exile 1? Please, someone illuminate me. This looks like the same game except maybe better graphics, and you have a dodge roll. Last I checked, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but Path of Exile 2 was set out to not be Path of Exile 1, to be slower, more methodical combat. Look at these builds. This is the end game, by the way. This is what you have to look forward to when you're playing Path of Exile 2. Now, I could be wrong. Maybe Path of Exile 2 was just set out to be another Path of Exile 1 that is a bit easier for like new players to Path of Exile to understand, and Path of Exile 2 is actually meant to be a gateway drug to Path of Exile 1. Because right now, it looks like if you put 10x the amount of monsters on the screen, you would get Path of Exile 1. There's no difference between Path of Exile 1, Path of Exile 2 in terms of endgame. Now, maybe there's a difference later on, not later on, sorry, later on, clearly not. But I mean, the bosses, okay, they feel a bit different because WASD and dodge rolling mechanics does feel a bit different to like the move to click in Path of Exile 1. But I mean, okay, look at like this Ice Strike Invoker right now on the screen. Literally Path of Exile 1. What are we doing here? Okay, if I want to play Path of Exile 1, I would play Path of Exile 1. Why is Path of Exile 2 endgame the same exact thing as Path of Exile 1? I just cannot understand. Now, I'm not saying this should be like what's that game called? Like the Dark Souls ARPG, Wicked something. No Rest for the Wicked. I'm not saying it should be that slow. But it's like, why are there like white monsters if they're just gonna die instantly? Just make it like, like a little, like, you go into a map, it's a little hallway with a bit of monsters and a boss. I mean, like, if the boss is the main component of the game, just make a bunch of bosses and like throw them in the room. Right? If we like, let's say we want to compare it to Elden Ring. So, well, Elden Ring has a lot of monsters that, I'll just put this on play again. Elden Ring has a lot of areas where you just skip the monsters. Well, not on the first playthrough, you don't. And also, you need them for the souls and some items as well. But realistically, they're also like, there's not that many monsters, so you technically can skip them if like you don't want to kill them. Here, you are forced to kill them because there's a lot of them, but they're not offering any challenge. In Elden Ring, if you grab a shit ton of monsters, you're probably not gonna have a good time. Like, majority players won't. Okay, you can't just pull a whole room without like a strategic, idea of how you're going to handle that room, because some of them are going to be shooting range. Let's say the room before Malenia, right? Like where you drop from the roof, and there's like the shooters that are on the second floor. There's the shooters on the first floor. There's the little patrol guy. And if you just jump in and try to kill everyone, you're going to die. No, pretty much doesn't matter what build you're running, you are gonna die unless like you have like a shield build where like you're just a massive tank. Maybe then. But you don't just like run in and pull a whole room. Like, it makes no sense, right? And I'm not saying Path of Exile 2 should be that, but then what is Path of Exile 2 if it's not just Path of Exile 1? This looks like Path of Exile 1. As far as I understand, they weren't setting out to replace Path of Exile 1. So what is this endgame? This, I think I made my point. Now, obviously, like, in the comments, if anyone watches this, I'm sure the Path of Exile 1 is, well, then just don't play the game. Okay? Yeah, I'm not gonna play the game if turns out into Path of Exile 1. I don't wanna play another Path of Exile 1. I didn't like the first one. I'm not gonna like the second one. I don't like being God mode. If I wanna be God mode and just make an easy game where I just right click and everything blows up, I'll play Path of Exile 1, I'll play Last Epoch, I'll play Diablo 4, I'll play Diablo 3, I'll play... Shit, at this point, Diablo 2 even, at the end game, is pretty much right click and everything blows up. That is not an interesting gameplay. I get that you guys get dopamine. It's like, oh my god, look at this Chayula's catalyst. Oh, it's like the filter shows it. Like, oh, and you spurg out with your dopamine. That is not an interesting game mechanic. I'm sorry. I don't care that like a shit ton of stuff drops because I killed 1,000 monsters. It's like, I want challenging gameplay. I want problems to solve. I don't want just random shit dropping, which I don't care about. Why do we even have Scroll of Wisdom? Just fucking, like, we already have the identifying guy, Sin, in town. Why even have Scroll of Wisdom? Just make all the items identifiable when you pick them up. Like, who cares? Like, honestly, what's the point? Why is gold not just automatically picked up? I don't need to see that shit. Like, all of this garbage is just, like, trying to hit your dopamine. This is not why I play the game. Now, basically, you can just say, it's like, well, maybe ARPG is not for you. Well, I want an ARPG that is for me. Okay? Because I already have a bunch of them that are not for me. And by the way, I do like Last Epoch. I appreciate Path of Exile. I think it's a good game. Just, again, not for me. I don't think Diablo 4 is a good game, but it serves its purpose for the people who play it, I guess. But I was hoping for a different game. I was hoping for a slower game, more methodical combat. I was hoping for, when I started playing Path of Exile 2, the feeling I got from Act 1 and Act 2, that feeling of like, I need to think about like when I enter this room, not to just, run in guns blazing. Okay, I need to not get like surrounded by monsters because I gotta roll out, like find like where I need to go if I do get surrounded, if I get overwhelmed, I need a place to run to. Not huge maps and monster packs that, by the way, honestly, just 10x the monster packs at this point. Like, there's no... Why is there like small monster packs if you can AoE them down in a second? Just bring 10x so you can have more drops. Like, I mean, like, fuck it, just make it, honestly. Just copy Path of Exile 1 to Path of Exile 2 with the campaign of Path of Exile 2, because in my opinion it's an exceptional campaign, except Act 3, but maybe Act 4, 5, 6 will be better. I think Cruel is not meant to be there, but whatever, I'm going off topic. Act 1 and Act 2, fantastic, right? The pacing was great. By the time you hit Act 3, you're kind of experiencing Path of Exile 1 from that point on. You just have too much AoE, too much area of effect, too many combinations that work, which is fine. I don't mind that combinations work, but the effectiveness of them is like, well, if you don't do this, you're an idiot, because with this, you kill a whole room in a second, and with this, you will be killing a monster, and then another one, and another one. Even if though you are one-shotting them, it's gonna take you longer to kill them. So you might as well switch to the AoE, like for example, stupid combinations of Poison Arrow and Firewall, right? Which is cool as an idea, but it sucks in practice because all it does is just kills everything. Which again, if that's your game style, that's fine, but I don't think that should be in Path of Exile 2. I think that should be in Path of Exile 1, where everything just dies all the time, outside of your screen even, because who cares, right? You just right-click and you're just here to see loot drop. So you just right-click, shit blows up, you get like your, the way I like to call it is epilepsy simulator, right? That's Path of Exile 1. And Path of Exile 2 seems to be going in that same direction, which is something I don't want it to go into. Anyways, you get my point. I am not a fan of Path of Exile 2 Endgame, and I'm not even talking about the imbalance of Endgame that Crip was talking about. I don't even care about that. The concept of the Endgame, in my opinion, is completely messed up, because this is not what I thought was promised for Path of Exile 2. That is what was promised for Path of Exile 1, and as they said, they are keeping Path of Exile 1. The Path of Exile 1 will still get seasons and updates and all that stuff, which is great. But then, what is the purpose of Path of Exile 2? If it's going to turn to the same game. And by the way, as far as I understand, Path of Exile 1 had a season where they tried to make a Path of Exile 2 kind of thing, where they slowed everything down and everyone hated it. So they decided to make Path of Exile 2 to make it like that season that no one liked. But now they're turning Path of Exile 2 Endgame into Path of Exile 1. Can you guys decide what you're trying to do with your games? Just have a vision, follow through. Path of Exile 2 is a great game up until Cruel Egg 3. And then it just completely like destroys what Path of Exile 2 was kind of like meant to be. And I think I heard this multiple times already. That's like Act 1 and 2 feels hard, feels like, you know, you're overcoming challenges, stuff like that. And then it just kind of like starts going downhill to the point where it's like, well, now it's just brain dead again, right? So, yeah, please don't make the game brain dead at the end game. Just please, I ask you. Anyways, that's it for me. Enjoy flaming the comments. Enjoy smashing the dislike button because I don't like your favorite game of the month. Peace.